Hello and welcome to our Hangout on Air. I'm Mary Beth at the Law of Attraction Club, and we're on the web at the loaclub.com. On these Hangouts, we collaborate with our friends Tara. This Hangout is the summary of our theme for the week, and today continues on our member conference line. Today's topic is understanding your reality and how to change it. You can get invites to our open calls, which we offer periodically, and our powerful, free letting go process by going to the loaclub.com. So now we're going to begin our hangout. And so we welcome Robin, who will be bringing through Tara.
Welcome back to our discussions. Let's start here with the two big questions that sit at the core of everything we do in this community, and the simplest answers we can give you. 1, what is the law of attraction? And 2, how do you create more of what you want? Number 1, what is the law of attraction? Answer, what you believe becomes your reality. Or with slightly more detail, before this life of yours and throughout this life of yours, you've made choices about what you believe and therefore what you expect. Those choices, and nothing but those choices, define you and your world and everything and everyone in it. Number 2, how do you create more of what you want? Answer, by making different choices about what to believe. Or, with slightly more detail, you stored that lifetime of conscious belief choices in your subconscious tapestry of expectations, and you seldom revisit them. Changing your world means choosing to believe new things about it and practicing those new beliefs into the fabric of that tapestry. In a nutshell, that's it. Of course, if this is your first step into serious consideration of the law of attraction, this description of things may seem very far-fetched. And we recognize that if you've spent a lifetime practicing a different view of what's real, then you're not going to upend all of that after reading 2 paragraphs. But as you pursue these ideas further, you may from time to time be looking for the simple version. And so there you have it. We know that we're describing a very different sort of world than the one you're used to thinking about. And if you want to explore this different explanation of reality with us a little further, we'll need to move beyond those simple answers, and so now we will. But in the end, we'll come back to them, because this is the truth about everything you're experiencing. It's the truth about the so-called reality all of us different conscious entities are experiencing. It's the way the universe works. There are some things about you that just are. So let's be clear here with what you are not at choice about. You're a consciousness, a timeless, always connected extension of the collective consciousness of Source. You cannot change who you are at your essence. But here's what you can change: everything else. You intersect with the things and people that are a match to the individual and personal and unique belief choices you make. Everything in your experience is there because, and only because, you chose to believe certain things about you and your world. You're in what you might think of as a virtual reality that you're creating moment by moment. It's all an inside job. There is nobody else and no thing else that makes any decisions about any of it. There were no pre-existing conditions to it, and there is nothing sustaining it as it is except your expectations of it. We say again, there is nothing sustaining it as it is except your expectations of it. Next, let's recognize that choices are not permanent. You can choose and re-choose anything at any time. You can manifest whatever it is that you want by choosing to believe that it's possible, then probable, then certain. That's the simple truth of it. Why then does it seem so difficult to make these new choices? As we get into this, we'll be using examples from the current version of this one's world. Your world is probably similar, but in any case, it is the principles we are discussing, and they will apply in your world, whatever it looks like. Firstly, those beliefs you've already chosen are self-sustaining. And we really want you to get the logic of this, because it explains why you so readily accept the notion that the world exists out there as something external to you. When you make new choices about what to accept as truth, and you really, really do believe those truths, from that moment onward, your senses tell you day in and day out that those choices were the right ones. Because by law of attraction, the world around you and the people in it are always going to be a perfect match to those choices. And pretty soon you've forgotten they were choices at all. They've just become the everyday facts of life. Secondly, you have a wonderful subconscious mind that is vastly more powerful than your conscious mind. And your subconscious is locked into an operating partnership with your expectation tapestry. This is designed to support you in that world of yours, and it does that extremely well. You simply couldn't function without it. The problem is that your subconscious knows of no possibilities beyond what you've taught it. It's operating purely from habit, and yet it's making almost all of your decisions. Unless you intervene in those trains of thought, unless you make alternate choices about how you react to things around you, the status quo prevails. So the key to all of this is intervention. It's consciously making different choices, and you can do that at any time. But once again, your habit is not to. You've taught your subconscious to make all your decisions, including decisions about when you need to get consciously involved. You've taught it to pass control back to the boss, which is you and your conscious mind, only when this particular thing or that particular thing happens. Perhaps when the fire alarm goes off or the baby makes a noise. Otherwise, carry on. And carry on it does. And so it is that the doorway to new opportunities, to new and wonderful adventures, remains invisible to you. To make changes, to interrupt the status quo, you need to have your subconscious understand that you want to be involved in a whole lot more decisions than you have in the past. You need to reset some of those priority interrupt switches. And here's the good news part of that story. As you start intervening, as you start choosing to react by choice instead of by habit, You're teaching your subconscious a new set of habits. What that means is you're changing that hugely powerful part of you from opposing change to helping you change. And that's a big deal. It's a huge deal. In very matter-of-fact terms, it's the essence of moving from apprenticeship to mastery. So let's practice a little intervention exercise right now. Let's do some new style thinking. You have 5 senses. Spend a little time here and now just being aware of the deluge of information you're receiving, even without moving your head. What can you see? Ahead of you and peripherally. What can you hear? What can you feel? Your shoes, your clothes, the breath in your nostrils. Now, if you think about how little of that you are aware of until you made it conscious, you'll see just how much your subconscious handles without you knowing. It's sitting there, seeing all, hearing all, sensing everything, and saying to itself, not important, not important, not important. And by the way, if it didn't, you couldn't function. Your conscious processor would be overwhelmed. Once again, can you see that this is how that doorway to new opportunities, to those new and wonderful adventures, the one that's right ahead of you, staring you in the face, so to speak, remains completely invisible to you? This one can remember from the story he likes to think of as his past, going to the movies when he was very young. And when the movie got too scary, he closed his eyes and put his fingers in his ears until it was likely that the disaster had been averted. That was before his subconscious had learned to adequately distinguish between movie reality and actual reality. Next, turn your head from side to side and up and down, and notice how your field of vision changes. Think about watching television or being in a movie theater. Even with three-dimensional imaging, when you turn your head like that, you turn away from the screen. And movie maker techniques like switching scenes and camera angles and panning and close-ups are not how you see your world. You're not conscious of this, but these are the cues your subconscious uses to determine that what's on that screen isn't real. And remember, most of your information processing is subconscious. Now imagine that you are wearing on your head something that puts you into the scene. You are completely surrounded by intensely realistic three-dimensional sound and imaging. As you move your head, you are simply changing your field of vision of the same scene, even if you turn completely around. Now your subconscious is telling you something completely different. You might say, so what? But that difference is profound. Rather than, as with a movie, having to suspend disbelief, now you have to consciously override it to process the experience as something different. You have to keep reminding yourself not to believe it. Viewers say that they remember the experience not as something that they saw, but as something much more like a place and time they were actually in. As your technology improves, these virtual realities will keep improving, and it will become harder and harder to remind yourself not to believe it. And the experiences will become more and more remembered like a time and place that happened. And here's where we're going with this. And we want you to really think about this. Your so-called real world is in fact exactly equivalent. Your real world is also, in every sense, a virtual reality. So if you have one of those experiences described above, then you will actually be in a virtual reality within a virtual reality. The big difference between these two is the technology used. One comes from a headset, a man-made apparatus. The one you call your life on Earth is created by the law of attraction. What you choose to believe creates you and your context, your world. Your experiences are real, but the world in which you are having them is very much a virtual reality. It's a powerfully accurate metaphor. The important thing we've been doing for a short time here is encouraging you to see things differently. We now urge you to get beyond "that was interesting" and forgetting about it. Every time you challenge the status quo, you make a difference in that subconscious programming of yours. And every time you make a difference, you make the next difference a little easier, because more and more you're converting a powerful opponent of change into a powerful ally. That's why we often say, the better it gets, the better it gets. The journey to where you want to go is made of small steps just like this. What is the law of attraction? What you believe becomes your reality. How do you create more of what you want? By making different choices about what to believe. And so in our extended call here today, and in our calls this week, we will expand on this. And we'll be talking more about what's in that virtual reality of yours. Until then, remember that you can change your reality because it's virtual. Mastery can be yours. Begin intervening now. Take those small steps as often as it feels good to do so. We, of course, are always with you on this journey, and we are here to answer your questions. You have but to ask.
This Hangout on Air was the summary of our theme for the week. We do 3 live calls a week with Q&A for our members on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. You can become a member by going to the loaclub.com/join. Our longer discussion continues now with Q&A on our member